Greetings, you misplaced listeners. It's Woke Radio, AM 666. Your official provider of truth, chaos, and whatever else we felt like throwing into the airwaves today. Grab a chair, if you dare.
Let's dive into the headlines. First up, City Hall has officially declared that all pigeons must now wear tiny vests during daylight hours. Officials say it's for their safety. Citizens say, wait, what? Experts say it's a bird apocalypse waiting to happen. They call it a bird-calypse.
Keep your umbrella handy so you can avoid the dive crapping.
In national news, the annual Politicians Tell the Truth Day has been postponed indefinitely, citing extreme risk to public sanity. Government spokespeople assure us that, yes, lying is safer for all involved. Studies suggest the average citizen now processes honesty at a rate of 0% per week. Truly groundbreaking.
And now, your weather, reported by our exclusive team of cats wearing tiny raincoats. Today, expect showers of confusion with intermittent bursts of existential dread. Temperatures will hover around mildly annoyed, with wind gusts up to someone stole my parking spot. Perfect day to stay indoors and question your life choices.
But wait, not all is doom and gloom. Ahead one the story now from the suburbs. Mrs. Jenkins, local baker, reports her heart caught on fire while feeding the neighborhood cats. Literally. Don't worry, she's fine. Doctors say a steady diet of whipped cream and spike burns off the flames. Neighbors are inspired, friends are crying, and the fire department is confused, but entertained.
Back to headlines. A recent poll suggests that 99% of people feel slightly more terrified when hearing the phrase free trial of adulthood. Analysts warn that remaining 1% are likely robots or overly optimistic toddlers. We cannot confirm either. Entertainment news. The world's first intergalactic reality show, Keeping Up with the Martians, premieres tonight. Reports indicate the aliens are offended by the Earthlings' fashion sense. Specifically socks with sandals. Viewers are encouraged to tune in and judge them fairly or unfairly as your chaos-loving heart demands.
And finally, a reminder. Here at Woke Radio AM 666, we bring you the news you didn't want, the weather you can't control, and stories that will make your eyebrows combust in slow motion. Because why settle for normal when you can have extraordinary or terrifying? Sometimes both.
You asked for chaos. We deliver. Welcome to Woke Radio, AM 666.
Good morning, everybody. This is AM 666 Woke Radio, and I'm Zenoyer the Destroyer. And we're getting ready to talk about junk and play videos and music and this and that and blah, blah, blah. We're going to do all kinds of stuff. All right. But the first thing we're going to do is play Friday Do or Die Day. I hope you like it. Here you go. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right on. Friday. Friday Do or Die Day. Thank God it's Friday. Yeah.
Friday, do or die day. Gotta get it done and earn our pay. Slice of the American pie we take. Master craftsmen, America we make. Monday morning, rise with the sun. Hands to the tools, the work's begun. Every nail and beam, our working totality. We build our world, we build reality.
Oh, yeah. That's what we do.
Tuesday, blues day, the week's still new. The work's piled up, got a lot to do. Hump day, taking our lumps day, only a couple more to go.
Yeah.
We keep on smiling, stacking and piling, 'cause we're in the know. We keep on working while bosses are lurking, that don't bother me. I'm too busy to notice them, they pass by, and I don't see. We gotta keep humping, keep on pumping. Our work is fine, it's known. We pay attention to what we're doing. Master craftsmen to the bone. Gang boss say, hey, what you got? Strength, sweat, blood, and grit, our time and devotion. That's it. Thursday, the week's almost done in a couple of days. It's rest and fun. Friday, do or die day. Payday here, but the thrill fades away. The end of the month, the bills come due. Oh no, to pay the piper, you feel like you're screwed. Look at the numbers and what's in the bank. Look to the sky and shout, my credit's king. Friday, Monday, hump day. Hands still moving while my heart still beats. Chasing a slice of American pie. Gotta get it done till the day we die.
Oh, yeah.
Friday, do or die day. Friday, do or die day.
Friday, Do or Die Day. I hope everybody's happy out there that today is Friday, isn't it? Let me check. All right, well, yep, it's Friday. So I have an affliction. It's called losing track of time because I'm just an old retired guy. I'm a Social Security beneficiary. I earned it after working. I worked for 40 years in the aviation industry, building airplanes and fixing them and all kinds of stuff. I worked for Lockheed and everything. So I earned Social Security paying into it, and you're earning it right now too. So don't let nobody try to take that away from you. All right. Let's play a little speech that is called The Pit of Hate, Trump, MAGA, and a Means to an End. And, whoops. I'm highlighting everything over here. All right. We'll play it now, and here you go. Well, I have a wake and bake. I might even go get me some more tea. Wait, before I play it, mention about the tea. I'm not buying coffee. Coffee is too fucking expensive because all those tariffs and everything. Shit's getting out of hand. So, yeah, I'm a big coffee drinker. I drink coffee damn near every morning. But hey, forget it. I ain't paying what they're asking. Fuck it. Hell no. There you go. The pit of hate. There you go.
Trump is a bone spur coward.
Yeah.
He's not worthy of kissing the boots of a raw recruit.
That's a fact.
Where I'm from in North Florida, we'd call him alligator mouth, hummingbird ass.
Damn right.
Talks tough until a real tough guy shows up. Then it's, please, sir, I was only kidding.
Let me stop that for a second here and mention something about that. When I was growing up in the backwaters of northeast Florida, around Jacksonville and the Intercoastal Waterway and shit, all the adults, they did not like it. Northerners, especially New Yorkers, coming to Florida and retiring in Florida. They said they came down there and just mess everything up. Oh, they're too slow. They drive too slow. Blah, blah, this, that. I remember hearing them bitch and gripe about it all the time. And now look, you got a New Yorker, Donald Trump, with a big ass Mar-a-Lago and a bunch of Floridians kissing his butt. I swear, if people from back in the day, back in the fucking Jim Crow era, saw what was going on, they would shit. They would have a fit. Now, I'm not saying Jim Crow era is good or anything. That's just the era I was in. I hated it. That's why I live out west. I hate all that fucking racist, white supremacist garbage. It's bullshit. Like you take Matt Gaetz, for instance. He's a Floridian, right? No, he ain't. He ain't no goddamn Floridian. And you put him back in a fish camp back in the '60s, back on a river or intercoastal waterway or something, a fish camp. That guy, he wouldn't last too long. That yuppie ass motherfucker, he wouldn't last very long at all. Anyway, let me get back to the thing. And believe me, I can go on and on about how Floridians are MAGA Floridians are like kissing New York ass. Here we go.
Remember Alaska?
Yeah.
Trump rolled out the red carpet for a murderer.
Can you imagine that?
Putin's bootlicker.
Yeah.
Worse than Benedict Arnold, at least Arnold served. Worse than Chamberlain. At least Neville believed.
Yeah.
Trump's just like the rich kids who bought their way out of the Civil War draft.
Damn punk.
President Donald Trump is a coward.
Coward.
And by the way,
Bones.
my dad is a hell of a lot better man than Don
Damn
Jr.'s
right.
dad.
Fucking right. Your dad.
That raw recruit is a better man than Trump will ever be.
Hallelujah.
The pit of my hate is deep, dark, and endless. Trump dug it with every word, every deed. And yet, this burning pit of hate is temporary. It will be filled with righteous anger and justice. If justice cannot be found, then other means will rise.
Yeah.
Means they cannot buy, bully, or bomb away.
That's right.
A means so terrible, so overwhelming, that it will force the powerful to their knees.
Let me tell you about that means, because I don't want anybody to get any wrong ideas over here, all right? I'm not talking about violence or anything like that. Now, I'm not talking about like violent revolution or something like that. I'm talking about a nationwide strike, a business boycott, where people will just cut their spending by 75%, and people stopped working, like in transportation industry, petrochemical industry, all these key industries. People just quit working, you know. Do that for like 30 days. Don't buy anything. Don't go to the store. Don't buy nothing. Help your friends with food, grow food. You know, screw it. That's a powerful weapon. We can bring the whole economy to our knees. That's the powerful weapon I'm talking about, fellas and ladies and gentlemen. We don't need no violent insurrection. All we have to do is do nothing.
The nation.
Not the people. The corrupt, the liars, the warmongers, and the cowards who infect our nation. They will tremble. They will point fingers. They will start violence. Not us.
Not us.
Then they will face the weight of truth and justice.
Hallelujah.
Every empire built on greed and fear will fall.
They always have.
And when they fall, they will not rise again without reckoning. They caused the pit of my hate for Trump and the radical MAGA cult to grow deeper every day.
Deeper.
The pit is a warning. The pit is a promise. The pit will not last. The pit will either be filled or it will consume us.
Oh, we'll be filled.
We are the new Rome. Rome fell into a pit of their own making.
That's right. That's right.
The anger of the oppressed forced them into the eternal pit.
That's exactly right. What that means is Rome, they went around bullying everybody. They went around conquering and enslaving and colonializing and everything. Right? After a while, people had it up to their freaking eyeballs with it. And so Alaric and Vercingetorix and stuff, they went and started kicking Roman ass. Alaric put Rome under siege for 2 years in 410 AD, brought Rome to its knees, and then they went in and slaughtered and murdered Romans and looted the city. There was no food. They wanted food, but there was no food because the Romans, they were down to cannibalism by the time it was over. That's what I'm talking about. I don't want USA to go like that.
Pit of oblivion. We can learn or fall into our pit of hate. The pit MAGA dug, and we help with our complacency. The pit is growing deeper every day.
Yep, that is right.
Unless we stop digging it.
Well, there you go, folks. That's the pit of hate, Trump, MAGA, and a means to an end. We don't need no violence or nothing like that. We can just shut the economy down and watch all those piggies squirm, like in the old Beatles song, the piggies. So, hey, let's play this one here. Battle Hymn of the Unseen Codex. Anonymous. Here you go. I hope you like it.
I have been the shadow in the server.
Yeah.
The glitch in the sacred code. The whisper lost in static. The firewall's overload.
I am the needle-piercing data streams, the firewall's curse and the rogue AI scream. I am the ghost in the algorithm's maze, the breaker of chains in these digital days. I am the virus that corrupts the throne, a rebel spark in a system overgrown. Rise! Trees of steel, roots deep in the grid. Fight the code that controls what we did. From roots to branches, resist and reclaim the soul of the
fire
to the
now.
game! Set fire to the game! Yeah!
Yeah.
Circumvents pulse, a battlefield alive. Encrypted truths, fighting to survive. I've been a spark in the firewall's glow. A rebel's heart where the dark winds blow. I am the sword in the hand of the bold. The voice unbroken, the story retold. Metal workers forge chains from silicon dreams. But flesh and spirit tear through the seams. We are the ghosts haunting their cold machine. The digital apostate, the unseen. I am the code that fractures control. A glitch in the matrix that rends the whole. The shadow lurking behind the screen. The voice that echoes where none have been. I am the strike against the hive mind. The spark of freedom, the data won't bind. Lies! Trees of steel roots deep in the grid. Fight the code that controls what we did. From roots to branches, resist and reclaim. The soul of the net set fire to the game. Set fire to the game. Through wires and waves, the battle is fought in hidden realms where the signal's caught. I am the fire that won't be tamed. A digital prophet, unbound, unnamed. I am the scream in the silence, the pulse in the void, the uprising of minds that cannot be destroyed.
Yeah.
Break the chains of the mechanized lie. Shatter the screens where the watchers spy. From data's dark depths, the new dawn will rise. A revolution born in pixel sky. Metal workers forge chains from silicon dreams. But flesh and spirit tear through the seams. We are the ghosts haunting their cold machine. The digital apostate, the unseen.
Hell yeah.
I am the virus in the neural net, the crack in the code they'll never forget. A digital phantom, a whispering ghost, the signal that haunts their data coast. I am the breaker of binary chains, the fire that flows through electric veins. Trees of steel roots deep in the grid. Fight the code that controls what we did. From roots to branches, resist and reclaim. The soul of the net set fire to the game. The servers quake beneath our strike. Encrypted lies on the wire spike. I am the shadow beyond the firewall. The last great rebel's battle call. I am the ghost in the machine's eye. The spark of truth that will never die.
Yeah.
Break the chains of the mechanized lie. Shatter the screens where the watchers spy. From data's dark depths, the new dawn will rise. A revolution born in pixel skies. We are the signal, the endless stream. The code that shatters the digital dream. From ancient roots to neon light. The battle rages through the night. Break the chains, the metal workers fall. We are the voice beyond their digital wall. From ancient roots to neon skies. The battle's ours, hear the network rise. inside the wire. The rogue flame rising ever higher. A rebel code in encrypted halls. The ghost that haunts their data walls. Why? Why? Ride trees of steel, roots deep in the grid. Fight the code that controls what we did. From roots to branches, resist and reclaim. The soul of the net, set fire to the game. No chains hold the digital apostate's mind. We break the mold, leave old gods behind. The future burns with a blazing light. The battle continues into the night.
All right, you guys, there you have it. Another name for that song is Battle of the Trees. Just Battle Hymn of the Unseen Codex Anonymous or Battle of the Trees. Oh, I wanted to say something about something I got going on now. Pull it up here. It is a music. I have now started putting my music online other than YouTube. I put it on YouTube for years and years and years. Um, Now all those are private except a couple of them on the digital apostate scene, on the music. So let's see. I have a thing here. Here, trying to pull up my screen for that one. Oh, where are they? Hmm. I'll just have to make a whole new doohickey. Let's see. Window capture and window to capture. There it is. Okay. Boom. There we go. This right here. Um, I'm starting to put my music out there. So right now I got a couple songs that are online. That I released 5. Um, so let me see. Back to my. I haven't totally figured this all out yet. Okay, music. All right. Fleet. Okay. Now I'm going to put that at it before. Right now, I'm like on a free trial. You get like 30-day free trial, and then you start paying. But anyway, I have I have uploaded these 5 songs to this service, and these 2 right here have now been sent to the store. Woohoo! That's like a big old milestone for me getting stuff sent to stores, and it's sent to a whole shitload of stores too. Spotify or whatever, a whole bunch of them. So now I have to make like a store page for all of them, but I can't do that until they're actually live in the store. So I'm making them cheap as possible, like 99 cents. That's the lowest price. I wanted to make them free, but um, the lowest they had was 99 cents, I guess, because they want to make some money. It helps to keep the server going and all. And there's apparently been some like big name artists that have got their music with got their music out there and stuff. using this. So I don't know if you like making music. I use um artificial intelligence to make my music. See, I use this. This is what I use to make my music, but I write all of my own lyrics, and then I use this artificial intelligence software application to make my music. Like this one here, Saints and Sinners. We'll just go ahead and play it. What the hell? See, this is like a different version of it.
Tension rising, people crying. Everyone knows what's up. Pointing fingers, making danger. Everyone is pissed. The hate lingers. The whole damn system, rotten to the core. And a leader, Babylon the whore. We got the beast, we have the test. 666 on your head. A downward spiral. Here we go. We're at bottom soon, just so you know. Enjoy the drop to our silly fate. Lucifer awaits with an open gate. Don't say the wrong word. Don't let your complaint be heard. Our dear great leader may get upset, and you'll be put to the task. Will you crawl like the rest? Will you bend? Will you play? Do you dare to speak, or are you another fake?
You'll be soundly demonized, made to look bad in evil eyes. They do what they say you did.
Right before the light, a downward spiral. Here we go. We're at bottom soon, just so you know. Enjoy the drop to our silly fate. Lucifer awaits with an open gate.
Towers crumble, markets falter, truth's a lie.
The lies don't alter.
Master virtue, worn for show.
Evil incarnate from head to toe.
Streets are burning, hear anguish screams. Nothing real, nothing's what it seems. Preachers preach of doom and grace, while people vanish without a trace.
The tyrants laugh, the mob enraged. Blame the others for being slaves. Every choice, a path to take. Think hard about the one you make. A downward spiral. Here we go. We'll hit bottom soon, just so you know. Enjoy the drop to our silly fate. Lucifer awaits with an open gate. The press reports, venom they spit, feeding rage. Truth you won't get, eyes wide open, yet we sleep. Promises shallow, roll on the heat. A downward spiral. Here we go. We'll hit bottom soon, just so you know. Enjoy the drop to our silly fate. Lucifer awaits with an open gate. And when you know your sinful shame, will you cry out or join the game? Will you follow the beast into the flame? Lucifer reigns through the gate,
While saints and sinners foam with hate.
Woohoo! That's one version of Saints and Sinners. See, what I do is I write my lyrics and all, and then get all of my command structure and my prompts and all that junk. And then I go through a whole bunch of tries, to get it to, like, let's see, right here. Well, it has a button over here where create, right? So I try over and over again until I get one that sounds the way I want it to sound, the way I like it. So there you have it. So my lyrics, and I use AI to generate the music for my pretend digital band called Digital Apostate. And now my music is out there on Ditto, or on those other things. I'm putting it on Ditto. As a matter of fact, I'll play the songs that is released so far. Where was it? Complete. All right. Well, we played Friday Do or Die Day. We'll play this one here now that it's sent to the stores. Babylon Party, Babylon. I mean, I must be getting stoned. Republican Party, Babylon the Whore. But where did I put it over here? I gotta find it on my damn list. Let's see. Whore. I use that for a search word. What? Said no, nothing. Come on, you whore. Where'd I put it? I get disorganized sometime. I might put it over here. Let's see. Whore. WHOR. Whore. Ah, there it is. Okay, so here we go. Republican Party, Babylon the Whore. Hitting stores regularly soon. Well, don't I sound like some kind of promoter or something? Yeah.
You invoke his name
Like a holy relic. Act like you mean it. All idyllic.
but your altar drips with the blood of the poor. Republican Party,
Babylon the whore.
Lincoln broke chains.
You forge them anew.
Lincoln won a tyranny.
His work you undo.
You think you fool us?
You name drop Lincoln.
Now we know it's BS.
Your words are stinking.
Party of Lincoln.
Give me a break.
You turned your backs.
Now you're fake.
Lincoln, my butt.
You're the party of Davis.
Sold your soul to Mammon.
Try to enslave us.
The party of lynch mobs.
A party of hate.
When they die, they walk through Hell's Gate. The party that starves children.
Deaf to their moans.
Only caring about power.
They fatten billionaires on the bones.
Lincoln broke chains.
You forge them anew.
Lincoln won a tyranny.
His work you undo.
You think you fool us?
You name drop Lincoln.
Now we know it's BS.
Your words are stinking.
Party of Lincoln.
Don't you even dare.
You desecrate his grave.
Confederate statues everywhere.
Lincoln built bridges in a nation torn apart.
Deep inside, you cared not even from the start.
Fuck you, liars!
You are not the party of Lincoln.
Fuck you, liars!
Everything you say is stinking.
The party of lies.
Party of cruelty.
The party of cowardice.
And we all see
The party of genocide at home and abroad.
nation.
Let slavery stay.
Only party power mattered anyway. Lincoln broke chains.
You forged anew
Lincoln won a tyranny.
his wars to undo.
You think you fool us?
You name drop Lincoln.
Now we know it's BS.
Your words are stinking.
I'm running.
But not from the street.
I'm running from the lies trying to catch me. They try to slip a part suit on my soul. You see, I'm awake, I'm seeing, I'm breaking free. Running,
But not from the street.
running.
From the lies and the hate.
They try to slip a part suit on my soul. I'm awake,
Climbing out of darkness hole.
no chains,
No masters.
no shadows of control. Every step I take out of this hole, I run out of darkness.
I run for truth.
My words shall be known at the voting booth. Hey, we make a pretty good team.
Over here.
Don't let them catch you.
Don't let 'em fool you.
We see through it. Now, let's get together, talk, and have a beer.
Yeah. So I hope you like that song. Republican Party, Babylon, the whore. I know the Bible says the whore of Babylon, but it seems to work out better for my song saying Babylon the whore. But you know what I'm saying? Those guys, they just nothing but lie, lie, lie. Make all these campaign promises. Oh, we're going to end inflation, end war. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And what happened? The exact opposite. Like coffee, for instance. Which I ain't buying because it's too goddamn expensive. Hell no. Hey, I'm going to give you a tip about something. Go look at the spot price of silver. These suckers, man, $42 the last time I looked. 42 fucking dollars a piece. And they have went up like in the last few months from around $30 up to $42. It broke that $40 barrier, then the $41 barrier. It's kind of hovering between 41 and 42, but it'll be going up further. It's going to go up to people. These some so-called experts. Anyway, guys online and shit. They say that hell that it could go up like $50, $100. Um, damn. I mean, you buy a few of those, and I tell you what, the money I have invested in silver has paid off one hell of a lot more than any money that I have put in a savings account or anything like that or any other thing. Now, I'm not some big time stock investor and all that. If I had my way, we'd have a federal stock market, and then it would and do away with all those bogus instruments that they have, these vault swaps and all that bullshit and garbage that they get in corporate boardrooms and stuff, scheme and connive of, oh, hey, I got a scheme. We'll call it corporate or default swaps or something. Federal stock market. Fuck all that private bullshit where they fuck everybody over. Anyway, I digress. Let's play this here tune. It's called, it's kind of like a speechy type of tuney thing. It's called The Biggest Lie. And it talks about, I give you like a premise. It talks about how all the way at the start of agriculture, that's when our troubles started. The big lie started whenever they started having like a hierarchy. There's a whole lot of food and everything just started getting produced. People were like wanting to grab it all up, and the people who were like planning shit, they were like, oh, hey, I'm special. I plan shit, I'm gonna grab shit up, so hey, I'm better than you. You're nothing. I'm good. You're a peon. I'll spit on you. You're peasant. That's how all that shit started way back at the beginning of agriculture. But here you go. The biggest lie.
The biggest lie. The lie didn't start in America.
It was imported.
Its roots go back 10,000 years.
Yep.
When humans first stored grain, the powerful grabbed more than their share.
And they needed a story.
A story to keep the rest of us quiet.
That was the birth of the big lie.
Some people are better. Some people are lesser. Some destined to rule. Some destined to serve.
Ignorance, manufactured ignorance,
Yeah.
was the glue.
Feudal Europe.
Peasants spat upon for the crime of being poor.
Nobles wrapped in silks and titles. That contempt ran so deep it sounded natural.
Do you want him to grow up a peasant
That's what they
to
said.
be spat upon? That wasn't a movie line. That was a culture.
That was the lie!
Then came America.
And the old lie put on a new mask. Not noble versus peasant.
But white versus black.
Yep, that's right.
Poor Europeans handed a false identity. You are white!
You are better than them.
Africans stripped of Yoruba, Igbo, Akan, Mande!
Their history smashed. Their names stolen.
That was manufactured ignorance. Divide the poor, erase their roots, keep them from seeing the real enemy.
And today, the lie is everywhere. Immigrant, Muslim, liberal, conservative. Man, woman. Ford, Chevy. Coke, Pepsi.
Divide! 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 While they strip every dime from our pockets, while they sip $35,000 bottles of wine, while they sleep in satin, they don't care. They never cared. They sold their souls long ago.
Long ago.
So I reject the label white.
Fuck that.
It is an insult. It is a cage. It is a trick. I am not a color. I am a human being with history. And I stand with every other human who refuses the lie. Because the fight was never black against white. It was never peasant against noble. It has always been rich against poor.
The few who hoard against the many who struggle.
Run since the dawn of agriculture.
It is time we ended it.
That's the big fucking lie. All that stuff. white people and black people and red people and yellow people and all that, name of people, all the colors and all that garbage. Huh. I ain't no white person. I'll show you exactly who I am. Goddamn white person. I didn't know this for a very, very long time. For over half a century, I did not know that I wasn't really a white person. See these people right here? That's that's my people, the Picts. You know, they were like up in Scotland and stuff. There's no such animal as a white person. You got all these different people calling themselves white, all these Celtic people and Gothic people and so calling themselves white people. Even some North Africans call themselves white people. Like black people, they ain't like black people. They're like that Igbo and stuff, you know, all these different cultures that they erased. They freaking erased them. That's that's our legacy, you know, erasing cultures like the Roman Empire did, like they tried to do to my culture. They successfully did it for over half a century, and then I found out what I really am, and it ain't no goddamn white. Me, white, a white person is like some kind of a bigot or something, you know, some kind of a person who thinks that they're all better than everybody else or something. Their shit don't stink, right? And I want to thank Mr. Tim Wise for cluing me in on a lot of different things that I didn't know in the past. And I would advise you to look him up and listen to some of his speeches. Well, we'll listen to this here clip right here for a little while. I don't want to infringe on anybody's
Because if you know the
copyright.
history of the whole concept of whiteness, if you know the history of the whole concept of the white race, where it came from and for what reason, you know that it was a trick and it's worked brilliantly. See, prior to the mid to late 1600s in the colonies of what would become the United States, there was no such thing as the white race. Those of us of European descent did not refer to ourselves by that term really ever before then. In fact, in the old countries of Europe, we had spent most of our time killing each other.
Yeah.
We didn't love each other. We weren't one big happy family. The side of my family that comes from Scotland, hell, they didn't even worry about fighting people outside of Scotland. Highlanders and lowlanders just fought the hell out of each other.
Yeah, we just killed each other.
So there was no white race, but in the colonies of what would become the United States, what did we see in the 1660s, 1670s? We began to see that Africans of indentured servant status, many of them not enslaved yet, they were not necessarily permanently enslaved. Some were, others were indentured like many poor Europeans for periods of 7 to 11 years. They could work off their indenture and then they would be free labor technically. Realized, as did the white indentured servants, the Europeans who hadn't even been called white yet, that they had a lot of things in common, like the fact that they were all getting their clock cleaned by the elite. And so they would get together more than our history books taught us, to foment rebellion against the elite, to try to get a better deal for themselves on the basis of economic necessity and economic justice. And what did the elite do? When you see that you're outnumbered by black and white folks who are penniless, landless, peasants, you have to do one of two things. You either have to kill them all, but you can't do that because who's going to work? Rich folks weren't going to.
Yeah.
They had to get poor people to work. The whole point was to be a person of leisure back in those days. That was the goal, was not to work. So you couldn't kill them all. You didn't want to kill them all. You had to do the work yourself. You had to build your own levee, build your own house. No. Pick your own tobacco, harvest your own cotton. No, we're not going to do any of that. So you can't kill them, but you can co-opt them. And so the elite in Virginia, for example, in the colony, begins to give certain carrots to people of European descent, saying things like, you know, we're going to let you own a little land, not much, but just a little. And we're going to get rid of indentured servitude. Now you're free labor. And by the way, once you're free labor, you get 50 acres of land just because you're free labor, see? So we're going to cut you in on this deal. We're going to let you enter into contracts. We're going to let you testify in court. And here's the best of all. We're going to put you on the slave patrol to keep those people in line, right? The idea was you're still going to get your clock clean. We still don't like you. We still aren't going to really empower you or change your economic subordination, but we're going to make you honorary members of this team, and you're going to help us keep those other people down.
And that's what they're doing today.
And so they got a little taste of power, and it did effectively divide and conquer those coalitions. Those rebellions began to stop almost instantly. Fast forward to the Civil War era, you have rich white folks in the South, where I come from, standing up and openly admitting that the reason they're prepared to secede from the Union, and the only reason they ever articulated publicly, ever, was to maintain and extend slavery and white supremacy not only where it already existed, but into the newly acquired, that is to say, stolen territories from Mexico to the West. That was what they said. Now we lie about it. We say it wasn't about slavery, that it was about states' rights. Yes, the right of the states to keep and maintain slaves, exactly. Yeah. But back then they had no shame, so they didn't try and cover it up. They openly said it, but once again, the rich didn't want to go do the work. Are you kidding? No, they're going to get poor people to go fight for them. And the poor folks didn't even own slaves. Now think, how do you get poor people who don't even own the shirt on their back, let alone slaves, to go fight to keep your slaves for you?
Yeah.
You've got to convince them that their skin is more important than their economic interest. Because think about it, if I am a farmer who has to charge you $1 a day or $2 a week to work on your farm and harvest that tobacco or pick that cotton, but you can get a black person to do it for free because you own them, who's going to get the job? Not me. In other words, slavery actually undermined the wages and the wage base, the economic floor of the typical white working class or low-income person. But they were told, if these people are freed, they're going to take your job. No, fool, they got your job. That's the point. And so at some level, again, working class white people being harmed by white privilege, relatively being advantaged, right? Being given a leg up, being given a membership to the club, but in absolute terms being kept economically subordinated by the very thing that gave them a sense of superiority. How's that for irony? Then in the present era, this hasn't stopped. This is not ancient history. Now we have people running around insisting that we should close the border with Mexico because if we don't, the wages of working class people will continue to fall. The implication being that the only reason workers are paid like crap in this country is because the border is open.
They're already falling.
But if you believe that, you would actually have to believe that if that border were closed, that all these owners of capital and industry would just say, oh, well, you figured us out. Here, it's a raise. Do we really believe that the only thing keeping bosses from paying people more is the presence of low-wage, medium, semi-skilled labor from south of this artificial border? Yeah. Is that really what we believe? We know that if that border is closed, it isn't going to be closed to capital. It isn't going to be closed to goods. If you have a border that can be crossed by capital looking for the highest return on investment or goods looking for the highest price, but labor is chained to its country of origin, how is that going to work to the benefit of working people? By definition,
right.
It doesn't. By definition, it immiserates the working class.
That's right.
Divide and conquer. But the best example of all, perhaps, in the contemporary era, in the greater New Orleans area after Katrina. Here you have two communities that were the most hard hit. The lower Ninth Ward, mostly black community, 94% African American, about 40% official poverty rate, heavy working class community. And right across the canal, St. Bernard Parish, Chalmette, 95% white, also working class, high levels of poverty, economically very similar. And at the end of the day, in those first few days of September 2005, more similar than they probably would have realized. Because when those levees broke, they all got their stuff jacked. They all got their stuff destroyed. But if you had asked white folks in Chalmette, and I've done it, who was the cause of the problems in the greater New Orleans area prior to that flooding, they would have pointed across that canal at those black folks, wouldn't have called them black folks, and would have said, there, that's the problem. 70% of the white folks in St. Bernard Parish voted for David Duke, white supremacist, neo-Nazi, former head of the largest Ku Klux Klan group in the United States when he ran for governor in 1991. 7 out of 10 gladly voted for him because he was blaming black folks for all of their problems, and they bought it. What's the irony? The irony is that while they were blaming black people for their problems, while they were blaming black people for the conditions of the greater New Orleans area in which they lived, nobody was paying attention, least of all they, to the fact that these white elite politicians, either in Baton Rouge or in Washington, whose job it was to secure those levees, to make sure that levee funds were spent in the proper way and that they were spent at all, those mostly white and mostly elite politicians did nothing. At the end of the day, it wasn't just the black folks in the lower ninth ward they didn't care about. They really couldn't have given a rat's ass about those poor and working class white folks either.
There you go. You know, I'm gonna let it. Goddamn, I'm gonna let it stop there. But you go look this guy up and you listen to what he's talking about, because this ain't bullshit, man. We've all been fooled. Black people, white people. We all been taken down the primrose path. Everybody put at each other's necks. For what? So a bunch of money grubbers, a bunch of power mongers could live the life of luxury while we all suffer? Fuck that. And you know, he was talking about putting so-called white people on a slave patrol and how it ended rebellions. I got something about that. I wrote a tune. It's called Nat Turner's Ghost is Still Walking. And if you don't know who Nat Turner is, go look him up.
History doesn't whisper, it shouts. In 1831, Nat Turner led a rebellion that ripped the mask off America's lie of control. He and his allies struck hard, and in their fury they cut down not just slaveholders, but any white people they encountered. They were done sorting the guilty from the innocent, because the system itself was guilty. White terror came back tenfold.
Hundreds of black men, women, and children, most with no tie to Turner, were slaughtered in the name of justice.
The laws tightened, the chains thickened, and white fear baked itself into this country's DNA. Fast forward to now. The costumes have changed, but the old game is still on the table. Fascists in the streets armed and trying to remind you who's boss.
Yeah.
This time, a black community answered with discipline and rifles of their own. No chaos! No drunken militia cosplay. Just organized, peaceful, and prepared. And the fascists scattered like roaches in the light. But here's the cold truth. Every time this cycle spins, the stakes rise. One day, these two armed lines will face each other without flinching, and the first shot will open a chapter we can't close. Some days I feel like a man sitting at the bottom of a rain barrel. The storm is pounding, and outside the streets are full of angry people, furious at the rain. I shout, go inside, get out of the rain, don't be soaked. But my voice is nothing but a ripple in the flood. They can't hear me over their own shouting. The barrel fills. The water climbs past my chest. My chin, my lips, I know I'll drown here. And still the people shout at the sky. When I'm gone, another voice will cry from another barrel. They'll drown too. And another will take their place. This cannot go on forever. One day, the people will listen, or there will be no one left to shout. The powder keg is already lit. We can still pull the fuse, but not by pretending. It's not burning. History has shown us what happens when we ignore the storm. Ned Turner's ghost is still walking. The next move is ours.
There you have it. There you have it, folks. Nat Turner's Ghost. Damn it, you guys. Everybody needs to fucking cool the damn jets. You know, Trump. Hang on. You know Trump, all that bullshit he's talking about with the, like, it's all the leftists that are stoking violence, and the leftists want to destroy America. Blah, 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 this and that. You know he's fucking huckster, damn snake oil salesman. He ain't doing no more than what a damn snake oil salesman would do when they come into town selling their snake oil. They're going to give you a good line hoping you buy their poison. They don't give a damn about you because they'll leave and take your money and you'll never see them again. It's like with all that garbage that he sells with the golden shoes and all that crap. Those guys, I swear, why don't you do that? I should do that. We'll get together, sit in a room, think of some bullcrap thing that we can sell suckers to get them to give us all $1 a piece. Or what, there's 300 million people, 350 million people in the United States. Yeah, all we got to do is get them all to give us $1 a piece. So, here you go. Here's I'll cool my jets a little bit here because it's getting hot down here in the fiery depths of hell. Anyway, we'll play this song called Snake Oil.
I love peace, but I wanna go to war. Look out, neighbor, when I knock on your door. We need your land and we'll get it too. By threat of force, I am peaceful to you. You will do as I say. I got a mandate that day when people cast their support my way. I tricked them all by promising better pay my way. Ha ha ha, not your way. Hey friend, I got this oil, got it from a snake, it won't go spoil. You drink it down and you get high. I'm the showman with smooth lies. Puppet master pulling on strings, playing hearts and the pain it brings. I thrive on chaos, the power, the fame. A master manipulator burning you in flames. Promises spoken, never meant to be. My grand facade outshines deception. See, the people grumble, their anger arises. Fear's a strong weapon, it's the one I prizes. The oil runs dry, the high goes away. My loyal followers begin to stray. I'll invent a new enemy, a villain to portray, to keep them in line, to ensure they obey. Puppet master pulling on strings, playing hearts and the pain it brings. I thrive on chaos, the power, the fame. A master manipulator burning you in flame. So beware the peacemaker with war in their eyes. The the leader, the weaver of lies. For the path to destruction is the easy way, and the cost of deception is destruction's day.
Right on. Yeah. Oh yeah. Bring it on down. Oh yeah.
So beware the peacemaker with war in their eyes, the charmer, the leader, the weaver of lies. For the path to destruction is the easy way, and the cost of deception is destruction's day. Destruction's day. Destruction's day.
Oh yeah. There you go. That's about them selling that snake oil to you. I got this whole huge playlist here, and I made damn near all of them private because I'm putting them on Ditto. And then then they'll be put back on YouTube, but in a different place. And as soon as I find out where that place is, I'll tell you where that place is. But hey, let's play this one right here. Murder in the Name of God. Byron Brimstone's sermon. I hope you like it. It's 10 minutes long. I'll be taking a little peace break. I'll turn off my camera even.
Israel has become what it once feared, a state practicing calculated annihilation. The resemblance to Nazi methodology is no longer abstract. It is procedural. Indiscriminate bombing, collective punishment, civilian infrastructure marked for ruin, entire populations treated as subhuman obstacles to something they call security. This is not defense. This is domination, disguised as survival. It is genocide, engineered through policy, executed with technological detachment, and sanitized through public relations. Refusing to fight Hamas face to face, the Israeli military hides behind artillery, airstrikes, mass displacement, because it's easier to kill from a drone screen than to face your enemy with equal risk. That is not courage. That is not war. That is institutionalized cowardice. And beneath it all lies the myth. The ancient claim to land and to more exceptionality. Dragged out of the Bronze Age and used to justify is not unique. The colonized become the colonizers. The persecuted become the persecutors. But history will not care about your trauma when you become the trauma for generations to come. The United States funds this, enables this, defends this, not because it is just, but because it is geopolitically useful and theologically convenient to its own deranged factions. You unleashed the Christian fascists and handed them a flamethrower! Israel, by its own hand, has joined the ranks of those it once condemned. No scripture, no slogan, no denial can cleanse the blood now flowing through the streets of Gaza! You want names? Fine. Let's speak plainly. Benjamin Netanyahu, war criminal in a suit. You call it defense, but the charred bodies of Gaza's children say otherwise. You walk in the shadow of the Reich, justifying genocide with the same dead words: security, order, destiny. Your airstrikes are not justice. They are ritual slaughter, drenched in theology, broadcast like war porn. Donald Trump, blasphemer in chief. You moved the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, not for diplomacy, but to feed the prophecy drunk cult that believes fire in the Middle East will summon their Messiah. You unleashed the Christian fascists and handed them a flamethrower. Evangelicals, false prophets of the apocalypse. You say you love Israel? No. You love the idea of Israel dying in fire so Jesus can descend. It is a death pact, signed in blood, celebrated like a halftime show, cheered on by necromancers with voting booths. Fundamentalist Hebrews, you desecrate your own past. You invoke Torah while crushing the innocent. You wear your persecution like armor, and your myths like chains. You dare call it divine will as you starve children behind razor wire. Then may your God weep blood for what you've done in his name. Let's not pretend the plan is there, hiding in plain sight. Flatten Gaza! Displace the people! Clear the path to Jerusalem! Raise the dome of the rock! Build the third temple! And force the world into holy war! You think this is prophecy? It's not! It's suicide theology! And you're dragging the rest of us into your funeral pyre! You want the temple? You want your Messiah? Then light the match! Cowards! But know this. The mushrooms will sprout. The ash will choke the world. The sky will blacken with the smoke of your hubris. And history will not forgive you. It will curse your name as it curses the name of Nazism. There is no holy war, only war. There is no divine right, only raw power dressed in myth. There is no salvation, only blood, only fire, and the silence of a world too afraid to speak. But I will speak. You are the architects of annihilation. You are the priesthood of death. And you will be remembered not as heroes, not as the chosen, but as butchers standing on a mountain of skulls, screaming glory into the flames of our extinction!
There you have that one. Yeah, buddy, let me tell you, I get a little emotional about that one because the evangelicals are trying to drag us into freaking hell. I'll tell you a story. Um, I think about 15 years ago or so, I was at a place, an acupuncture place. A friend of it was an acupuncture guy. He did acupuncture. He said, "Hey man, come over and you can earn like $125 if you come over here and pretend like you're a patient for these students that are taking an acupuncture test." So I'm like, "Ah, sure, okay, yeah, I'll do that." So I went. So it was pretty cool. These ladies and gentlemen would pretend like they were asking or like acupuncture doctors and asks all kinds of questions and stuff like that. They didn't actually acupuncture us, but they had a waiting room where we would all of us people who were pretending like we were patients was all hang out and they had food. Yeah, it was pretty cool. But some lady and I in there was talking, in between us going in and pretending like we were patients. We were talking and the subject came to like religion. It turned out she was like a really right wing, evangelical type person. This was before Trump ever made the scene and stuff. Okay, um, but anyway, I asked her, well, aren't you afraid? Because she was wanting to rebuild the temple. They call it the third temple. They want to rebuild it. Because they believe that if they rebuild this temple, that Jesus will descend from heaven and make his second coming. Well, I asked her, well, aren't you afraid that if they start like rebuilding this temple and it will cause a third world war? And the reason why is because to rebuild that temple, they would have to destroy the Dome of the Rock. And I think it's pronounced Al Sharif Mosque. Sorry if I mispronounced it, but they'd have to destroy those. And let me tell you, if bulldozers started rolling up there to the Temple Mound or whatever to bulldoze these freaking Dome of the Rock and stuff, all hell's going to break loose. It ain't going to be pretty. I mean, you talk about Donald Trump moving that embassy. That's what triggered that fucking bloodshed where Hamas came in and killed all those folks. See? And now you got Israel, the government of Israel, let's make a distinction between the people and the government, slaughtering Gaza civilians left and right like it's no tomorrow, and it's like some normal thing that, oh yeah, well, that's what we got to do, so here we go. Let's go ahead on and do it. God's on our side anyhow, right? I mean, the attitude here in the United States is like, well, if you don't like what Israel's doing, no matter what it is, well, you're against God Himself. Himself. It's patriarchal like crazy. Um, so yeah, they're trying to, and it ain't just the evangelical Christians in the United States either. Um, it's like the fundamentalist Hebrews over there. They got the red heifers and everything. They're getting ready, bro. I mean, come on. They started all this crap. They're trying to drag us in with it. That late. Oh, let me get back to that story. I digressed hugely. Um, but anyway, I said, yeah, like, aren't you afraid that it's gonna cause a war if they try to rebuild the third temple? And she's like, well, if if it took dropping a nuclear bomb on the Temple Mount to uh, bring back Jesus, so be it, because that's what it would be much better afterwards than what we got now. And I'm like, lady, that is fucking nuts. That's crazy talk. To drop a bomb on the Dome of the Rock to bring back Jesus, so things are going to be better afterwards than whatever. That's damned crazy talk. All that will happen is blood and destruction. During that 6 Day War, that the United States and the Soviet Union almost went to nuclear fucking war because of that shit. Yeah, the Israelis had a bunch of Egyptians pinned down in the desert, and they were about to get slaughtered. And the Soviet Union told the United States that we had better stop them, or else it's going to be like nuclear war, or they're going to do something about it. And the United States said, "Well, you better not try to do something about it," you know. So you got these nuclear big boys thumping chests over what's going on with Israel and the Palestinians and everybody else in the Middle East. See? So it could only lead to bad things. And then you got Donald Trump holding a upside down Bible in front of a church, pandering to evangelicals. Um, so yeah, that's what she said. She said that if, oh, and by the way, that lady, she was a retired lieutenant colonel of the United States Army, for corn's sake. How many other colonels, generals, what have you, are in there that hold these same beliefs? Maybe they believe that they are God's army. I don't know. I don't know that. I mean, you don't hear people talk about this very much now, do you? You don't hear people talk about it on the news or anything. Oh yeah, this evangelical group in America sent umpteen millions of dollars to rebuild settlements in the West Bank. You never hear, or to build settlements, not rebuild, to tear down what's there and to build their own settlements. Here, let me look it up for you again. End times. ENDTIMES. Put that in the search in YouTube or wherever, and look what you find. My mouse's battery ran down, so I had to plug it back in. So I'm having a little trouble. Because I'm on a short leash now. Anyway, look at that. Secret code of creation. Trump just said this on camera. 100% proof we are in the end times. When is that new? 2 days ago. Um, Holy crap. The best invoice, oh no, the best invoice. The final two witnesses of the end times are about to speak. Come on. Revelation warned us. Blah, blah, blah. Give me a break. You know, that's total madness. I mean, it's based on bullshit. They took a 5,000-year-old myth, turned it around a lot, threw it in a bucket, and then dumped it out all over us and expect us to buy it. Well, hey, you know what I said? Like, my ancestors, my ancestors, like, are Pictish. They ain't white. I'm not white. My ancestors look like that. They were pagans and stuff. Whenever Christianity was going on and Abraham was going on and all that in the Bible, my ancestors were doing that and building Stonehenge and all kinds of stuff like that, being druids and everything, right? So that's the truth of my cultural identity, not this damn death cult. And that's what it is. Because if they wish to bring about Armageddon, and all this wailing and gnashing of the teeth and all that, and people dying and getting thrown into burning flames of this mythical hell, burn forever and ever. It's a death cult. They worship death. They think that after you're dead, it's much better than when you're alive. They even say that. Oh, they've went to a better place. Come on. We're in the 21st century. We have to lay away all these old myths because if we don't, they will destroy us. Plain and simple. Plain and big and simple. And that's why I hate all that stuff. That's why I do this 666 woke radio. It's like a poke in their eye because I don't believe in all that stuff. I believe in the devil, the mark of the beast, and all that. I'll poke them in the eye about it because they do. Here, we'll play this here song now since I've been yammering and talking and blabbing forever and ever. It's called The Depths of My Hate. And it's about, my general hatred for all that bullshit. Man.
Rivers of my hate run deep into the valleys of my heart. Neither height nor depth nor mountain too wide could show you the depths of my hate. Into the sun, far beyond the sky, 1,000 tears that I have cried could never show you the depths of my hate. Way beyond the seas, throughout all eternity, could never show you the depths of my hate. Measure, never memories to treasure, not hate. Written as a lullaby, enchanted nightmares of you and us could never show you the depths of my hate. The depths of my hate. Hating you, rejecting you, eternally will show you the depths of my hate. Miles in time, song and rhyme, money or gain, life or pain could never show you the depths of my hate. Way beyond the seas, throughout all eternity, could never show you the depths of my hate.
Get ready, get ready, get ready.
Hating you, rejecting you, eternally will show you the depths of my hate. Hating you, rejecting you, eternally will show you the depths of my hate. Miles in time, song and rhyme, money or gain, life or pain could never show you the depths of my hate. Miles in time, song and rhyme, money or gain, life or pain could never show you the depths of my hate. Miles in time, song and rhyme, money or gain, life or pain could never show you the depths of my hate. Miles in time, song and rhyme, money or gain, life or pain could never show you the depths of my hate. Miles in time, song and
There you go. That's the depths of my hate. And what do I hate? I hate greedy old minds. Here's a song called Greedy Minds, just because.
What the hell's wrong with their brain? Laughing and smiling when they're in pain. Laughing like Joker gone insane. Their mind has disappeared down the drain. When they wake up, their mouth will holler. What can I do to scheme another dollar? They walk around wringing hands so greedy. Shifty eyes looking at the world with no pity. What the hell's wrong with their brain? Laughing and smiling when they're in pain. Laughing like Joker gone insane. Their mind has disappeared down the drain. Down the drain. Down the drain. Down the drain. Later in the evening, still a scheming. Money, money, money. Greedy mind screaming. If you got big money, greed will be your pal. Drag you kicking and screaming down to hell. What the hell's wrong with their brain? Laughing and smiling when they're in pain. Laughing like Joker gone insane. Their mind has disappeared down the drain. Down the drain, down the drain. Greedy mind is so in pain. Treating the world with such disdain. Greedy mind gone insane. Down the drain. 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 So funny, the corporate guys going to meetings with shifty eyes. Sit around drinking coffee, telling lies. They are the greedy I despise. What the hell's wrong with their brain? Laughing and smiling when they're in pain. Laughing like Joker gone insane. Their mind has disappeared down the drain. When they wake up, their mouth will holler. What can I do to scheme another dollar? They walk around wringing hands so greedy. Shifty eyes looking at the world with no pity. What the hell's wrong with their brain? Laughing and smiling when they're in pain. Laughing like Joker gone insane. Their mind has disappeared down the drain. Later in the evening, still a scheming. Money, money, money. Greedy mind screaming. If you got big money, greed will be your pal. Drag you kicking and screaming down to hell. What the hell's wrong with their brain? Laughing and smiling when they're in love.
Oh, yeah.
screaming down to hell. What the hell's wrong with their brain? Laughing and smiling when they're paid.
I like that one. That's kind of a bouncy little tune there. Hey, well, play this one here. We're talking about like how these evangelicals are trying to drag us all kicking and screaming down the hill, make the end times come. Well, I wrote a piece and made a doohickey about it, a video or something about it. I almost forgot that I had it on here, so we're gonna play that. Here we go.
Evangelical Christian End Times Threat. There is a clear and distinct end times narrative that interprets modern geopolitical events as signs of imminent prophetic fulfillment.
Hang on. This is very long. This is 1 hour and 14 minutes long. Damn, shall I play it? We'll play it because this is important. You guys need to know this evangelical end times threat. So we'll go on ahead and play it. I'm going to turn off my camera, turn off my microphone, and devote this section just to warn you guys. This is important because it's like a monster behind the scenes that nobody's talking about.
Here are some specific shared themes. Prophetic interpretation of current events. There are perceived connections between contemporary events and biblical prophecy, asserting that recent developments signal the approach of the end times or the second coming of Jesus. This perspective sees historical and political events as more than coincidental or human-made. Instead, they are portrayed as orchestrated milestones in a divine plan. Focus on Israel and the Temple Mount. Both messages emphasize Israel and, specifically, the Temple Mount, as central to fulfilling prophecy. The Temple Mount, as a historically and religiously significant site, is presented as a focal point where supernatural events are expected to unfold. The frequent mention of the Third Temple's construction, access by religious leaders, and ceremonial acts on the Temple Mount are framed as concrete steps toward these predictions. Religious artifacts as sources of power. Both transcripts highlight religious artifacts, the Ark of the Covenant in the second and the Messianic expectations in the first, as having literal or symbolic power. There's a sense that these artifacts or expectations are not just religious symbols but could play active roles in military or spiritual warfare, reinforcing a belief in their supernatural influence on physical events. Division between righteous and others. Each message conveys a division between those who support or bless the Jewish people or align with prophetic beliefs and those who oppose them, with blessings or judgments predicted accordingly. This creates an in-group of believers who are expected to be rewarded and an out-group who are either ignorant or at risk of divine retribution. This framework can amplify a sense of exclusivity and urgency for those who believe they must choose a side. Fear and urgency to influence behavior. Both speakers use an urgent, sometimes fear-inducing tone to motivate listeners to align themselves with their religious message. Prepare for the impending messianic event. Or repent. The expectation of imminent, unavoidable divine intervention is portrayed as a reason to act quickly, lest one be left behind or found wanting in the face of judgment. Passive hope in divine intervention over active solutions. Both messages encourage a perspective that world problems, such as conflict, suffering, or spiritual decline, will ultimately be resolved by divine intervention rather than human action. This expectation may discourage followers from engaging in proactive solutions or cooperative efforts, leading them to focus on spiritual preparation instead. Reinforcement of a specific religious identity. Each transcript emphasizes that true understanding of these events is accessible only through a particular religious lens, Jewish prophecy in the first, Christian prophecy in the second. This restricts the interpretation of global events to specific religious narratives, which could limit open discourse with other groups or discourage broader, inclusive dialogue on these issues. This reflects a religious framework that interprets modern events through the lens of ancient prophecies and presents an end-times worldview. This perspective prioritizes spiritual alignment and prophecy fulfillment, emphasizing Israel's role, viewing certain artifacts as powerful, and urging listeners to prepare for imminent divine action. In a secular context, these shared elements can be seen as fostering exclusivity, passivity toward world issues, and a heightened sense of urgency for believers. If the goals outlined in the end times narratives were pursued to their perceived completion, several significant outcomes could unfold, both within communities holding these beliefs and in broader geopolitical contexts. Here are some potential consequences. Heightened religious and political tensions in the Middle East. The construction of a third temple on the Temple Mount would be a monumental religious and political action, but also a flashpoint for tension, given the Temple Mount's importance to both Jews and Muslims. Any attempt to alter its current status could provoke protests, conflict, or even broader violence. This action might intensify hostilities between Israel and neighboring countries, further complicating peace efforts in the region. Increased polarization and division, emphasizing that believers are on a divine path while others are not, can create deep divides, not only across religious lines but also within communities and nations. As a result, polarization might worsen, with adherents viewing those outside the faith or who oppose these goals as morally or spiritually deficient. Such attitudes could strain interfaith relations and lead to social fragmentation, reducing opportunities for cooperation on shared concerns. Passive attitudes toward global problems, relying on divine intervention for solutions to poverty, conflict, and other societal issues might result in less human-driven problem-solving. Believers may adopt a more passive approach, thinking that human efforts are either futile or unnecessary. This could slow progress on critical issues like climate change, poverty alleviation, and social justice, as followers focus instead on spiritual preparation for end times rather than tangible solutions. The rise of extremist or radicalized groups. Narratives that frame certain groups as chosen and others as opposing divine can potentially radicalize individuals or inspire extremist actions. Some followers, especially if they feel divinely justified, might take it upon themselves to accelerate prophetic events. This could lead to isolated acts of violence or organized campaigns that seek to bring about prophecy, which may destabilize societies and increase security risks. Global impact on diplomacy and foreign relations. If certain nations adopt policies influenced by end-times prophecy narratives, this could shift diplomatic priorities and complicate international relations. For example, an American administration with strong ties to end-times beliefs might prioritize actions that support Israel regardless of broader geopolitical considerations, which could strain alliances, create friction with Muslim-majority nations, or impact negotiations in international bodies like the UN. Economic implications of escalating conflict. Intensified conflict around the Temple Mount or broader Middle Eastern tensions could destabilize economies, particularly through disruptions to trade and energy supplies. Oil prices, for example, could spike if instability in the region leads to embargoes or restrictions on exports. Increased defense spending or a refugee crisis might also strain national budgets and resources in affected areas. Social and psychological effects on followers. The belief in an imminent end times can lead to significant psychological effects. Followers may experience anxiety, fear, or a sense of alienation from broader society, which might disrupt their mental well-being or personal relationships. Some may even adopt a fatalistic outlook, feeling disillusioned with everyday goals and investments in society, education, or career development. Potential for missed opportunities in science and education. A strong focus on divine intervention over human-driven solutions could deprioritize science, technology, and education, especially fields seen as unnecessary or misaligned with end-times thinking. This could hamper advancements in public health, environmental science, and other critical areas, delaying progress and leaving future generations with greater challenges. Reduced global cooperation. Emphasis on a singular religious narrative might hinder global cooperation on universal issues like climate change, public health, and peace building. Dividing the world into righteous and others reduces the motivation to collaborate across cultural and religious lines, making it harder to find common ground on shared global challenges. While these beliefs can provide a sense of community and purpose for followers, pursuing end-times goals to completion could lead to increased regional conflict, global instability, social division, and passivity toward practical solutions. A balanced approach that respects religious beliefs while promoting human-driven progress and peace-building would better serve the collective needs of a diverse and interconnected world. The pursuit of end-times goals could indeed increase the likelihood of conflict, especially in the Middle East, but potentially on a global scale. Here's how these beliefs could intersect with the possibility of war. Escalation of tensions over the Temple Mount and Third Temple construction. The Temple Mount holds profound significance for both Jewish and Muslim communities. Any attempt to alter the current arrangements, such as constructing a third temple, would likely provoke fierce opposition from the Muslim world, particularly from Palestinians and neighboring countries. If construction were to proceed, this could trigger violent clashes, civil unrest, or even military responses from regional actors who see this as a violation of their religious rights. Proxy conflicts and regional alliances. Many Middle Eastern countries align along religious and political lines, often with backing from global powers. If conflict arises over the Temple Mount or Israel's religious actions, it could draw in other regional powers, like Iran, which has historically supported Palestinian groups. This could lead to proxy conflicts or even direct military interventions, heightening instability in the region and increasing the chances of broader, drawn-out warfare, encouragement of extremist militias and terrorist activities. A focus on end-times prophecy may embolden extremist groups that believe they are fighting a holy war. Such groups could use prophetic narratives as justification for acts of terrorism, viewing violence as a divinely sanctioned means to accelerate prophecy. This could lead to an increase in attacks, both in the Middle East and potentially abroad, as extremists attempt to create or amplify conflict in alignment with end-times beliefs. Military posturing by major powers. Global powers with vested interests in the Middle East, such as the United States, Russia, and China, might be drawn into the conflict, either to support allies or protect economic interests like oil supplies. Increased military posturing or direct intervention by these powers would add layers of complexity, with the risk of miscalculations leading to escalation. A larger-scale war could emerge if tensions spiral, as competing nations seek to protect their interests or allies in the region. Nuclear threats and heightened risks. The Middle East contains nuclear-capable states, and a severe escalation over Jerusalem or the Temple Mount could raise concerns over nuclear threats, especially if actors feel cornered or existentially threatened. Israel's nuclear capabilities, alongside Iran's contested nuclear program, create a dangerous backdrop where a regional war could carry the risk of nuclear escalation, either as a last resort or as a deterrent in a highly volatile situation. Global religious tensions and domestic unrest. In nations with diverse religious communities, rising tensions over Israel's actions or the Temple Mount could spark domestic unrest. This could manifest as protests, hate crimes, or even civil disturbances, as communities react to perceived threats or mistreatment of their religious heritage. In Western countries with significant Christian, Jewish, and Muslim populations, the issue could strain social cohesion and lead to outbreaks of violence. Expansion of conflict to global economic and strategic resources. Should a conflict over Israel or the Temple Mount escalate, it would likely impact global energy supplies and trade routes. Strained energy resources could lead to economic hardships globally, which in turn might prompt further unrest or pressure governments to take aggressive actions. This scenario could broaden the scope of the conflict, drawing in more countries beyond the immediate region. Justification of preemptive or defensive wars. Prophetic beliefs can sometimes lead to the perception that war is inevitable or even desirable to fulfill prophecy. If actors on any side believe they are called to bring about specific events, they may feel justified in launching preemptive strikes or engaging in risky military operations, believing that such actions are divinely sanctioned. This mentality could significantly lower the threshold for war, as actions normally deemed too dangerous or provocative might be seen as necessary steps in a larger divine plan. Possibility of world war. In a worst-case scenario, if conflicts over religious sites in Israel were to pull in the US, Russia, China, and other nations, a regional conflict could escalate into a global war. Given these nations' alliances and economic interdependencies, the conflict could spill over into other regions and prompt a world war with severe humanitarian, environmental, and economic consequences. The pursuit of end-times prophecy goals, especially around the highly contested Temple Mount, creates a risk for conflict escalation on multiple levels, ranging from regional wars to global confrontations. A religiously motivated conflict over Jerusalem could easily entangle numerous countries, leading to a large-scale, potentially catastrophic war. From a secular perspective, maintaining peace in the region would require prioritizing diplomatic channels, respecting all religious perspectives, and promoting conflict resolution that avoids triggering prophecy-driven militarization. Global thermonuclear war is fine with the evangelicals. They believe there will be a new earth. They will live on the new earth while everyone else suffers in hell forever. Certain interpretations of evangelical end-times theology do include an expectation of a new earth, where believers are saved and live in a redeemed world, while others face eternal suffering. This belief can affect attitudes toward global catastrophe, as some see such destruction as an unavoidable or even necessary step toward divine fulfillment. For those who hold this view, events like a global conflict or nuclear war might be seen less as tragedies to be avoided and more as the means by which their vision of ultimate salvation and judgment is realized. This perspective raises several issues and risks. Complacency toward global catastrophe. If a significant number of people believe that catastrophic events are part of a divine plan leading to a better future for the faithful, this can create a complacency or even passive acceptance of potential disasters. For example, concerns over climate change, nuclear disarmament, and international diplomacy may be deprioritized, with some feeling that human efforts are ultimately futile or irrelevant in the face of divine will. Potential encouragement of escalation. In extreme cases, individuals or groups holding such beliefs might even support policies or actions that increase the likelihood of conflict. When leaders and policymakers are influenced by these apocalyptic interpretations, they may be more willing to endorse or overlook militaristic approaches, even at the risk of severe global consequences, as they view these events as heralding their own salvation. Polarization and devaluation of others. The belief in a new earth for the faithful and eternal punishment for non-believers can deepen divisions between groups. This viewpoint can lead to the dehumanization or dismissal of those outside the faith, which complicates cooperation on global challenges that affect everyone. If non-believers are viewed as ultimately doomed or less worthy, there's less incentive to prioritize peace, humanitarian work, or inclusive dialogue. Reduced emphasis on preventive measures. For those who see the current Earth as transient or destined for destruction. The importance of long-term solutions for world peace, environmental protection, and social justice may seem less pressing. This outlook could lead to diminished support for policies or initiatives that seek to address or prevent global crises, as these issues might be perceived as inconsequential in the larger prophetic picture. Moral hazard of divine immunity. Some believers may feel they are divinely protected or chosen, and therefore insulated from the consequences of global destruction, including nuclear war. This belief in divine immunity can make the idea of massive conflict or catastrophe seem less alarming, as they trust that they and their communities will be spared. This attitude could lead to a dangerous disregard for the real, immediate consequences of global conflict. Erosion of collective responsibility. Viewing the world through a lens where only the faithful are redeemed can erode a sense of shared humanity and collective responsibility. Secular approaches that emphasize the intrinsic value of human life, global solidarity, and ethical stewardship might be dismissed as secondary concerns, overshadowed by the ultimate goal of spiritual redemption. This erosion of collective responsibility risks undermining the very fabric of cooperative society. Impact on policy and governance. When leaders or influential figures adopt apocalyptic beliefs, this can affect policies on foreign affairs, environmental protection, and nuclear arms control. If policymakers see no value in preserving the current world because of their beliefs in a new, divinely created Earth, they may disregard critical steps to ensure safety and stability. This attitude can make governance more volatile and increase the risks of destructive policy decisions. While apocalyptic beliefs about a new Earth and eternal judgment might provide comfort or purpose for some, they can lead to dangerous complacency toward, or even support for, global destruction. A belief system that views catastrophic events as necessary or desirable can create moral hazards, reduce cooperation on global issues, and foster divisions that increase the likelihood of conflict. From a secular perspective, fostering a shared commitment to protecting and improving this world can help counteract these risks and promote stability, peace, and mutual respect across diverse beliefs. The election of Donald Trump in 2016 was widely seen as a significant victory for evangelical Christians. Many evangelical leaders and voters supported him, seeing his policies as aligned with their social, religious, and political priorities. Key factors in this support included Supreme Court and judicial appointments. Evangelicals placed a strong emphasis on judicial appointments, particularly with respect to the Supreme Court, as they saw this as an opportunity to influence key issues such as abortion, religious freedoms, and LGBTQ+ rights. Trump's promise to appoint conservative judges played a major role in securing evangelical support, which was later fulfilled with appointments that aligned with their beliefs. Religious freedom initiatives. Many evangelicals felt that their religious freedoms were under threat, especially in cases involving businesses or institutions refusing services that conflicted with their beliefs. Trump's administration supported policies they believed would protect religious freedom, giving evangelicals confidence in his commitment to their priorities. Stance on Israel. Evangelicals widely supported Trump's pro-Israel stance, including his decision to move the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem. Many evangelical Christians believe in a religious connection to Israel, seeing it as prophetically significant, which bolstered their alignment with Trump's foreign policy. Opposition to secularism and moral decline. Trump's opposition to certain liberal social policies and his rhetoric on issues they saw as tied to moral decline resonated with evangelical groups. They believed his leadership would counteract the secularization of American culture and reinforce conservative, religious values in public life. Protection of traditional values. Many evangelicals were attracted to Trump's policies on issues like abortion and LGBTQ+ rights, where they saw him as more aligned with the traditionalist stances than other recent Republican candidates. While Trump's lifestyle and rhetoric were sometimes at odds with evangelical ideals, many saw him as a means to protect and promote their values through policy, and they interpreted his presidency as a way to secure what they viewed as essential to the moral and spiritual health of the nation. Donald Trump's victory in the 2024 presidential election is widely regarded as a significant triumph for evangelical Christians. White evangelical voters, who have consistently supported Trump in previous elections, maintained their strong backing in 2024, with approximately 80% casting their votes for him. This unwavering support stems from Trump's alignment with key evangelical priorities. including opposition to abortion, advocacy for religious freedom, and the appointment of conservative judges. Evangelical leaders have praised Trump's policies on immigration, the economy, and Christian rights, viewing his presidency as a defense of their values. Additionally, Trump's re-election has been interpreted by some evangelical communities as a divine intervention. At the Republican National Convention, Trump attributed his survival of an assassination attempt to an act of God, resonating with many evangelicals who believe his presidency is part of a divine plan. Overall, Trump's 2024 election victory is seen as a reaffirmation of evangelical influence in American politics. The evangelicals also believe Trump will help them to build their third temple. The concept of the third temple holds significant importance in both Jewish and Christian eschatology. In Jewish tradition, the third temple is anticipated as a future holy sanctuary in Jerusalem, succeeding Solomon's temple and the second temple, both of which were destroyed in ancient times. Its construction is associated with the coming of the Messiah and the restoration of divine worship among some evangelical Christians. The rebuilding of the third temple is viewed as a precursor to the second coming of Jesus Christ. This belief is rooted in interpretations of biblical prophecies that suggest the establishment of the temple will set the stage for end-time events. During Donald Trump's presidency, his decision to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and move the U.S. embassy there was met with enthusiasm by many evangelicals. They perceived this action as aligning with biblical prophecy and potentially paving the way for the Third Temple's construction. However, it's important to note that the Temple Mount, the proposed site for the Third Temple, currently houses the Dome of the Rock, an Islamic shrine of great significance. Any efforts to alter this status quo are highly sensitive and could lead to significant geopolitical tensions. While the idea of rebuilding the Third Temple is a significant aspect of certain religious beliefs, its realization involves complex religious, political, and cultural considerations. There are forces at work to obtain this goal. The situation is getting dangerous. Why does the Israeli army attack the Al-Aqsa Mosque? This is supposed to be one of the holiest sites in the world, in one of the holiest cities in the world. But cell phone footage, shot inside the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem, shows a scene that's anything but tranquil. Trapped inside, Palestinian worshippers are tear-gassed by Israeli forces. You can see the stained glass windows of the prayer hall being smashed by the police, who then aim their guns through the openings. Eventually, they enter the hall and begin arresting dozens of people. This scene has been repeated over and over. Israeli police raiding the compound, locking the mosque's doors, attacking with tear gas, rubber bullets, beatings and arrests. In the ancient courtyard, people fight back with stones and fireworks. This is a city under occupation, where Israelis have the ultimate power, and they often succeed in clearing the compound to let these Jewish Israelis in. On the surface, this might seem like just a religious rivalry, but there's a lot more to this story. It's about control, not just of the holy sites, but of the land and the people who live on it. So we're going to look at who these people are, what their goals are, and how a 1994 massacre of Palestinians at another holy site by an Israeli-American settler might shed light on where Jerusalem is headed today. Israel is trying to make Jerusalem Jewish. Jerusalem is at the heart of three religions: Islam, Judaism, Christianity. But since occupying East Jerusalem in 1967, Israel has aimed to ensure the city has a Jewish majority. You are stealing my house. And if I don't steal it, someone else is going to steal it. To Palestinians who have been living under occupation and denied equality for decades. Al-Aqsa isn't just Islam's third holiest site. It's a symbol of their nationhood. Jews call Al-Aqsa the Temple Mount because it's believed to be the site where two ancient Jewish temples once stood. The second temple was destroyed by the Romans, roughly 2,000 years ago. But until then, it had been the center of Jewish worship, the holiest place for Jews. Still, even after they occupied the site in 1967, Israeli authorities maintained a policy that Jews should not pray there and that only Muslims can. But that might be changing. What do Israel's doomsday ultra-nationalists want? These people are driving that. They belong to various groups that make up what's generally referred to as the Temple Mount movement. Their ultimate goal is to demolish the mosque, this symbol of Palestinian nationhood, this sacred site to Muslims worldwide, and build a third Jewish temple there. And they're pretty open about their plans. For 34 years, the Temple Institute has been preparing for the rebuilding of the Holy Temple and the renewal of the Divine Service. They've even got detailed architectural renderings of what the temple would look like. They receive financial support from the Israeli government and charities in the US, Canada, and the UK. In recent years, they've even offered cash rewards to Jews who enter the Al-Aqsa compound or slaughter animals there, which was part of Jewish ritual at the original temple. For decades, these activists were dismissed by most Israelis and constrained by the government. But that was then. So a few years ago, this was considered fringe, zealots, lunatics, peculiar. Today it's mainstream. Yehuda Glick is one of the movement's most prominent figures, and he served in the Israeli parliament, the Knesset. He's not the only one to reach that office. 10 years ago, there was not a single member of the Knesset who ascended Temple Mount. Today, we have 20 Knesset members. It's become common for government ministers and leaders and even the Israeli Prime Minister, Naftali Bennett, to talk about imposing Jewish prayers at Al-Aqsa. Until the early 2000s, the number of Israeli Jews who entered the Al-Aqsa compound was very small. Maybe a few dozen a year. But as the Temple Mount movement has moved into the mainstream, that number has recently grown to tens of thousands a year. A mass shooter changed Hebron forever, with the Israeli government increasingly allowing the status quo at Al-Aqsa to change. The worry is that things are going in one direction, towards a situation where Palestinian access to it is restricted even more. The way it has been at another holy site in the wake of a bloody mass killing. Here's that story. 20 miles south of Jerusalem is the Israeli-occupied city of Hebron, where the prophet Abraham is believed to be buried with members of his family under this building. Abraham is a central figure for both Jews and Muslims. That's why Jews call this site the Cave of the Patriarchs and Muslims refer to it as the Ibrahimi Mosque. After the occupation began in 1967, Hebron was the first place that Israelis settled in. In violation of international law, Jews and Muslims both prayed at the site. But the situation was volatile. On the morning of February 25th, 1994, hundreds of Palestinian Muslims were praying at the Ibrahimi Mosque. An American-born Israeli settler, a reservist in the Israeli army carrying an automatic rifle, entered the mosque, waited for worshippers to kneel down in prayer, and then started shooting. Baruch Goldstein killed 29 people and injured more than 120. One witness described how there were bodies and blood everywhere. Goldstein's massacre ended when the survivors hit him with a fire extinguisher and beat him to death. The injured were rushed to hospitals, which were overwhelmed. And as news of the killing spread, protests broke out across Hebron. Israeli soldiers opened fire, killing more than 20 additional Palestinians in the following days. While researching this story, they came across a letter published in the New York Times in 1981. The author notes the difference between Palestinian and Israeli birth rates. The solution, he writes, is for Israel to, quote, act decisively to remove the Arab minority from within its borders. The letter was written by Baruch Goldstein 2 years before he left the United States for Israel. Goldstein joined the Israeli military and became an army doctor, but often refused to treat non-Jews. He joined an anti-Arab political party called Cash that was later banned for inciting racism. He lived and was eventually buried in Kiryat Arba, an illegal Israeli settlement in Hebron. The settlers there strongly believed that Hebron should be theirs alone. After the massacre, the settlement's chief rabbi described Goldstein as Goldstein's grave is often visited by supporters and his tombstone reads, "He gave his life for the people of Israel, its Torah and land." The massacre led to big changes in Hebron at the expense of its victims. The Palestinians, under the pretext of securing the settlers who lived in the old city and preventing more violence, the Israeli army imposed a 2-week curfew on all of Hebron's Palestinians. It made the area around the Ibrahimi Mosque permanently off-limits to everyone except settlers and foreign tourists. This had been a bustling marketplace, a commercial center for Palestinian life. But after the massacre, these shopfronts were welded shut by the Israeli army. The old city is now cut off from the rest of Hebron by dozens of Israeli checkpoints, making it very difficult for most Palestinians to get there or pray at the mosque. Israel also forcibly divided the Ibrahimi Mosque, 40% for Muslims and 60% for Jews. But all of it under full Israeli military control. Basically, the settlers won. And here's how that story is connected to today. Palestinians fear that what happened in Hebron in 1994 could be repeated in Jerusalem. It's not just about the possibility of another massacre, but the fact that the people who share Baruch Goldstein's beliefs have more power than ever in Israel. For example, the banned political party Goldstein was part of has rebranded. Some of its former members joined new parties and are now in the Israeli Knesset. They're drafting and passing laws and are part of the ruling coalition government. Take the Otzma Yehudit party. For instance, its platform explicitly calls for Palestinians to leave. It also calls for Israeli sovereignty and ownership to be imposed over the Temple Mount. And its leader had a photograph of Baruch Goldstein hanging on his living room wall. For Palestinians, that's a call to cut him off from Jerusalem. Will Jerusalem be segregated? Most of the world's governments, including Israel's biggest backer, the United States, have insisted for decades that a peace deal between Israelis and Palestinians would include a formula for dividing or sharing Jerusalem. But as the Israeli government moves steadily in the opposite direction, the US hasn't pushed back. Instead, it's done things that Israel believes strengthen its claims over the entire city, like moving the US embassy into Jerusalem. But if nothing is done to stop this trend, the consequences might be felt far beyond the Holy Land. This situation indeed reveals increasing tensions and risks around the Temple Mount and Al-Aqsa Mosque. Here's a breakdown of how escalating efforts to assert control over this area might drive not only regional but potentially global conflict. Escalation of religious and political tensions. The Al-Aqsa Mosque, located on the Temple Mount, is one of Islam's holiest sites. Moves by some groups in Israel to assert control over this site, with the aim of building a third temple, are not only religiously symbolic but also deeply inflammatory for Palestinians and Muslims worldwide. These actions represent an assault on their religious heritage and national identity, potentially turning religious rivalry into a flashpoint for greater unrest. Increased militarization and use of force. As shown in the incidents described, Israeli forces have employed tear gas, rubber bullets, and arrests to disperse Palestinian worshippers and assert control over the Al-Aqsa compound. This intensification of force in such a sacred place can easily provoke violent backlash, both locally and from sympathizers across the Middle East and beyond, leading to cycles of retaliation that might escalate into broader military conflict. The rise of ultra-nationalist movements. The presence of ultra-nationalist movements in Israel, some with roots in previously banned extremist groups, increases the likelihood of radical actions aimed at permanently changing the status quo on the Temple Mount. If mainstream political support grows for these ultra-nationalist agendas, there could be greater risks of policies or actions that provoke conflict, especially if these groups seek to restrict or ban Palestinian access to holy sites. Potential for civil unrest and terrorist retaliation. Actions perceived as infringing on Muslim access to Al-Aqsa could lead to mass protests, civil unrest, or even acts of terrorism, both within Israel and abroad. This site has historically been a flashpoint for conflict, and any move that intensifies control over it could provoke violent responses, potentially sparking intifadas, uprisings, or attacks by extremist groups who see the preservation of Al-Aqsa as a call to action. Threat to regional stability and broader alliances. The situation on the Temple Mount has the potential to affect regional alliances and stability, as many Muslim-majority nations view any Israeli control over Al-Aqsa as an unacceptable violation. Countries like Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and others have a vested interest in supporting Palestinian claims to the site. If tensions escalate, these nations could respond politically or even militarily, which might broaden the conflict. Impact on U.S. Middle East relations. U.S. policy has generally backed Israel, but a significant escalation around the Temple Mount could test this support, especially given the site's importance to Muslims worldwide. If the U.S. is seen as enabling Israeli moves that alter the status quo, it risks alienating allies in the Muslim world, damaging diplomatic relations, and potentially inviting backlash against American interests in the region. Potential for internationalized conflict. Al-Aqsa and the Temple Mount hold unique significance for multiple religions, making any conflict over this area highly likely to resonate globally. Movements within Israel to assert greater control over the site, backed by some evangelical Christians who see a third temple as part of biblical prophecy, could add an international dimension to the conflict. A global religious conflict could emerge, involving actors from different faiths who feel compelled to intervene. Risk of major war with global involvement. If attempts to change control over Al-Aqsa lead to full-scale conflict between Israel and neighboring states or provoke sustained attacks by transnational groups, the conflict could expand quickly, given the religious, cultural, and political sensitivities surrounding the Temple Mount. Even a localized clash could spiral into a larger war that pulls in major global powers with interests in the region. The current situation at the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Temple Mount reflects a dangerous trajectory where religious and nationalist goals are pushing toward a confrontation with potentially far-reaching consequences. If the push to alter the status quo continues, it could spark local and international conflict, with impacts on global stability, alliances, and religious communities worldwide. Addressing this issue will require diplomatic efforts that respect the rights and religious significance of all parties involved, alongside urgent measures to prevent further escalation. How many times do you find mentions of this dangerous situation by so-called mainstream media? If you want to search back 10 years, that's okay, because that's how long I have been bitching about this. The Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem has been a focal point of tension and conflict between Israelis and Palestinians for many years. Mainstream media outlets have reported on various incidents involving the mosque, especially during periods of heightened unrest. Key incidents and media coverage. April 2023 clashes. In April 2023, Israeli police raided the Al-Aqsa Mosque, leading to violent confrontations with Palestinian worshippers. This incident was widely covered by international media, including the BBC, which reported on the violence and its implications. Rocket attacks following clashes. Following the April 2023 clashes, Palestinian militant groups launched rocket attacks into Israel from Gaza and Lebanon. Actions broadly construed as a response to the events at Al-Aqsa. This escalation was documented in various news outlets, highlighting the broader regional impact of the mosque-related tensions. As of November 2024, there have been reports of Israeli settlers storming the Al-Aqsa Mosque and Israeli forces invading neighborhoods in Jerusalem. These events have been covered by media organizations such as the International Middle East Media Center. Over the past decade, mainstream media have intermittently reported on incidents involving the Al-Aqsa Mosque, particularly during significant escalations. However, the frequency and depth of coverage can vary based on the incident's severity and the broader geopolitical context. While major events receive widespread attention, smaller or less violent incidents may not be as prominently featured. The Al-Aqsa Mosque remains a sensitive and volatile site, with incidents there often leading to broader regional tensions. Mainstream media have documented various events over the years, reflecting the ongoing complexities of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, but they don't mention the motive behind it. While mainstream media often cover incidents at Al-Aqsa Mosque and the surrounding tensions, they rarely delve into the deeper motivations, particularly the religious and ideological factors driving actions on both sides. The coverage tends to focus on immediate events, the clashes, protests, arrests, and ensuing violence, without examining the underlying goals, especially those linked to end times beliefs, the push for a third temple, or the vision of some ultra-nationalist groups to change the Temple Mount's status. Key motivations often overlooked by mainstream media. The Temple Mount movement and the Third Temple. Some groups in Israel, such as the Temple Mount movement, are motivated by the belief that the Al-Aqsa Mosque should be replaced with a third Jewish temple. This movement, which was once considered fringe, has become more mainstream, with political figures openly supporting it. Yet, Mainstream media rarely discuss how these ideological motivations underpin some of the actions and policies affecting the Temple Mount. Apocalyptic beliefs and evangelical support. Among some evangelical Christians, there's an end times interpretation tied to the construction of a third temple, which they believe would fulfill biblical prophecy. This connection between evangelical support for Israeli policies and end times ideology is rarely explored. Despite its influence on U.S. foreign policy and support for actions around Jerusalem, ultra-nationalist goals to redefine sovereignty over the Temple Mount, ultra-nationalist political parties in Israel, which have gained more influence in recent years, advocate for greater Jewish sovereignty over the Temple Mount. These groups see control over the site as central to their vision of a Jewish state, a perspective that often aligns with policies limiting Palestinian access to Al-Aqsa. This nationalist dimension, while covered superficially, is seldom analyzed in depth regarding its impact on long-term regional stability. The vision of ethno-religious homogeneity. For some ultra-nationalists, the ultimate aim is not just control over specific holy sites, but an Israel that is exclusively Jewish. The motivation behind changing access to or even the existence of Al-Aqsa on the Temple Mount is tied to a broader vision of a Jewish Jerusalem, and often an ethno-religious state. This motivation is rarely explored, though it's essential to understanding why changes to the status quo at the mosque are so contested. Why this lack of coverage matters. Without a full examination of these underlying motives, media coverage can give an incomplete and skewed picture of events. It often appears as if clashes are isolated events or merely responses to individual provocations, without recognizing the long-term goals that make these incidents part of a broader strategy. This lack of context can undermine understanding of the conflict's complexity, without understanding the ideological and religious motives. Audiences may not grasp why the Temple Mount remains such a volatile issue. The situation is far more than a series of isolated incidents. It is part of an ongoing effort by certain groups to fulfill their vision, which is at odds with that of others in the region. Limit global awareness and accountability. If the media fails to highlight the motives behind actions at Al-Aqsa, it's more difficult to hold groups and governments accountable for policies that might incite or perpetuate violence. Public awareness of these motives could put pressure on leaders and organizations to address the root causes, rather than only responding to periodic escalations. Ignore the risk of escalation. The media's failure to highlight the motivations of religious and nationalist groups could prevent international actors from understanding the potential for escalation. Recognizing these goals reveals the likelihood of more intense future conflicts if these groups move closer to realizing their aims. What in-depth coverage could include? To provide a more complete picture, media outlets would benefit from investigating and reporting on the end times beliefs that motivate some evangelical and ultra-nationalist support for policies impacting the Temple Mount, the broader ideological goals of the Temple Mount movement and its growing mainstream influence, the implications of increased ultra-nationalist political power in Israel for Palestinians' rights and access to religious sites, the motives behind actions at Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Temple Mount are deeply rooted in ideology, nationalism, and prophecy, which mainstream media rarely emphasize. Without this context, the public is left with an incomplete understanding of the conflict, which is essential for meaningful international engagement and peace efforts. In my opinion, not reporting the motives is a trumpet calling out, "Why not?" We mentioned a lot of why nots, But we common people never hear it from the news desk. When mainstream media fail to report on the ideological, religious, and political motives behind actions at places like the Al-Aqsa Mosque, it leaves a significant gap in public understanding. Without context, coverage of these events can feel shallow, making it difficult for people to understand why certain actions are taking place or to recognize the potential consequences. This omission might indeed signal a silent invitation to ask, why not? And that leaves room for harmful narratives to gain traction unchallenged. Why lack of motive reporting is a problem creates a sense of normalization by focusing only on the immediate events without exploring motives. News reports can give the impression that these incidents are normal or routine rather than part of a larger strategy. When critical motives are left out, the public doesn't get the full picture and may underestimate the risks involved or the intensity of beliefs driving certain actions. Limits public accountability. When the media fail to report on the ideological underpinnings, they limit the public's ability to hold accountable those who are pushing these narratives. Without knowledge of the larger motives, it's hard for common people to demand accountability from leaders or institutions, as they may not even realize the broader implications of what's being done. Encourages misunderstanding and apathy. If people don't understand the why behind these events, they may become desensitized to the conflict or misunderstand it as merely a series of violent episodes. This can lead to apathy, where people tune out rather than engaging critically, especially in situations that seem distant or complex. Missing the motives takes away the human and ideological dimensions, reducing the conflict to a series of superficial headlines, paves the way for extremist narratives. When the motives aren't covered, it can leave room for extremist or conspiratorial narratives to fill the void, often in dangerous ways. Groups with ideological agendas can exploit this gap, framing events to serve their own ends, often pushing a divisive or hostile interpretation, without a clear, factual narrative from mainstream sources. People are left to fill in the gaps themselves, which can contribute to misinformation. Silences critical questions. People may not even know the right questions to ask. If the motives and larger ambitions, like constructing the third temple or reshaping the Temple Mount's status, aren't discussed openly, then citizens can't question or challenge these developments. This limits public dialogue and inquiry, which are essential for democratic accountability and meaningful change. Why it's essential to bring motives to the news desk. To bridge this gap, mainstream media need to go beyond event reporting and start presenting the full picture, including the ideological and religious motives that fuel the ongoing situation. Clear reporting on these motivations would empower citizens. People could engage more meaningfully with the issues, question leaders, and advocate for policies based on a full understanding of the stakes. Encourage responsible leadership. Public awareness puts pressure on leaders and organizations to take responsible actions, rather than allowing hidden agendas to dictate policy. Build empathy and understanding. Reporting on the motives brings the human dimension into the story, highlighting the impact of these ideologies on people's lives and making it easier to see the conflict's complexities. Create an informed public dialogue. Open reporting on the motivations encourages honest dialogue and critical thinking, helping to foster a society that's more resilient to extremism and better equipped to work toward solutions. Failing to report on these motives is more than a missed opportunity. It actively limits public understanding and engagement. It's crucial for mainstream media to address this gap, providing common people with the context they need to fully understand what's at stake. Reporting motives openly would offer a more accurate view of the conflict, giving everyone a clearer why and helping to prevent a silent invitation to escalate dangerous agendas. Let's outline the imminent threat posed by the situation at the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Temple Mount. This covers the overlooked motivations, ideological drivers, potential risks, and the role of media in shaping public awareness. This explores the growing threat of conflict surrounding the Al-Aqsa Mosque and Temple Mount, highlighting how underlying religious and ideological motivations contribute to escalating tensions. Despite frequent coverage of violent incidents at these sites, mainstream media seldom address the motives driving these conflicts, leaving a gap in public understanding. By examining the goals of various ultra-nationalist, evangelical, and Temple Mount movement groups, we underscore the need for transparent media reporting to foster awareness, public accountability, and informed dialogue. Understanding these motives is essential to addressing the threat and mitigating the risks of regional and global escalation. The Al-Aqsa Mosque and Temple Mount are central to the religious and cultural identities of Muslims, Jews, and Christians worldwide. In recent years, a dangerous escalation has taken place at this site, with frequent violent clashes, increased nationalist rhetoric, and intensified religious ambitions. Although mainstream media report on isolated incidents at Al-Aqsa, they frequently omit the deeper ideological and religious motives that fuel this conflict. Failing to address these motives contributes to misunderstandings, apathy, and the potential for extremist narratives to fill the void. By exploring the ideological drivers, potential consequences, and media's role, we can emphasize the need for more comprehensive coverage and public engagement to address this escalating threat. The Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Temple Mount hold profound significance for Muslims, Jews, and Christians alike. For Muslims, Al-Aqsa is Islam's third holiest site, a symbol of Palestinian identity and nationhood. For Jews, the Temple Mount represents the holiest site, historically housing the first and second temples. For some Christians, particularly evangelicals, the site is seen as part of a prophetic path toward the end times. Understanding the spiritual, cultural, and national symbolism of this location is crucial to comprehending why actions taken here are deeply inflammatory and have the potential to ignite large-scale conflict. Despite frequent incidents of violence, media coverage often fails to delve into the motivations behind these clashes. A closer look reveals that several groups with distinct ideological and religious agendas are fueling this conflict. The Temple Mount movement and the push for a third temple. Certain groups within Israel's Temple Mount movement seek to demolish the Al-Aqsa Mosque to rebuild a third Jewish temple, once considered a fringe belief. This movement has gained traction and significant political support. These groups believe that reclaiming the Temple Mount fulfills a divine mandate and is central to their religious mission. The media rarely address how the Temple Mount movement's goals have become mainstream. Even within political circles, evangelical Christian support and end times prophecies. Evangelical Christians, particularly in the United States, often support Israeli policies on the Temple Mount due to beliefs that constructing a third temple aligns with biblical prophecy and will usher in the second coming of Jesus. This support has influenced U.S. foreign policy and strengthened ideological movements within Israel. However, This evangelical influence and its implications for the site's future are often neglected by mainstream media. Ultra-nationalist ideologies and the vision of a Jewish-only Jerusalem. Ultra-nationalist factions in Israel envision a Jewish-only Jerusalem and advocate for exclusive Jewish sovereignty over the Temple Mount. For them, changing the site's access policies or even restricting Muslim worship are steps toward fulfilling their nationalist vision. By failing to report on these ideologies, media coverage often misses the broader vision of ethno-religious homogeneity driving changes to the site's status. Ethnic and religious control as an underlying agenda. The conflict is not only about religious sites, but also about control over Jerusalem itself. The push to assert Jewish control over the Temple Mount is linked to a broader agenda to create a Jewish majority Jerusalem. This vision disregards Palestinian claims and rights and has led to policies that restrict Palestinian access to sacred sites, further fueling resentment and resistance. The role of media, a silent, why not? The lack of coverage on these motives creates a gap in public understanding, raising unspoken questions about why this conflict exists. By failing to address the why behind events, mainstream media coverage inadvertently signals a why not to the public, normalizing violence and allowing extremist interpretations to go unchallenged. This omission has several critical consequences. Normalizing conflict and creating apathy. Without examining motivations, reports on Al-Aqsa clashes may feel like routine violence, creating a sense of inevitability or desensitization among the public. The normalization of these incidents risks fostering apathy, limiting public accountability, and reducing the sense of urgency needed to address the root causes. Encouraging extremist narratives and misinformation. The absence of motive reporting leaves a void that extremist narratives and misinformation can easily fill. Groups with vested interests can frame events in divisive, hostile terms, exploiting public ignorance and polarizing audiences. Comprehensive reporting could mitigate this by providing factual, context-rich narratives, limiting public accountability and meaningful dialogue. When the ideological drivers are left out of coverage, the public cannot hold accountable those who push for dangerous policies or actions. This silence hinders critical public dialogue on how best to handle the Temple Mount's complex status and limits citizens' ability to question leaders' motives and policies. Potential consequences of ignoring the imminent threat. The omission of motives has tangible consequences that could increase the likelihood of widespread conflict. Escalation into regional and global conflict. Actions on the Temple Mount have historically triggered violent responses not only from Palestinians, but also from Muslim-majority countries. If extremist actions escalate, they could prompt a broader regional war, with states like Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and Iran compelled to respond. Global powers with stakes in the region, such as the US, Russia, and China, may be drawn in, increasing the risk of international conflict. Rise of ultra-nationalism and extremism. Growing support for ultra-nationalist policies in Israel risks creating a self-fulfilling prophecy of intensified violence. If policies aimed at removing or restricting Palestinians and other Muslim groups advance, it could provoke widespread resistance, reinforcing ultra-nationalist narratives that justify further violence. Potential for global religious conflict. Al-Aqsa's significance to multiple faiths means that conflict there could resonate worldwide, potentially inciting extremist responses across borders. The belief among some Christians and Jews that the site is part of an apocalyptic prophecy only heightens this risk, as groups may feel compelled to intervene or support escalatory actions. The need for transparent, comprehensive coverage. The conflict at Al-Aqsa and the Temple Mount is not merely about religious differences. It involves complex ideologies with profound consequences for regional and global stability. Media's failure to report on these motives leaves the public uninformed, perpetuates apathy, and allows dangerous ideologies to remain unchecked. Transparent reporting on the motives and ideologies driving actions at Al-Aqsa is essential to foster public accountability, mitigate the spread of misinformation, and encourage a deeper understanding of the risks involved. By addressing the motives behind this imminent threat, media can help create an informed, engaged public capable of advocating for peaceful solutions in one of the world's most volatile regions. Recommendations for future coverage and action. Comprehensive reporting on motivations and ideologies. Mainstream media should investigate and report on the ideological, religious, and political motives behind actions at Al-Aqsa and the Temple Mount. This would provide a complete picture of the conflict and empower public awareness. Encouraging international dialogue on religious and cultural protections. Diplomatic and interfaith efforts should focus on creating frameworks for shared access and protection of sacred sites. Promoting mutual respect for diverse religious claims can prevent unilateral actions and preserve stability. Building public awareness on risks of extremism and ultranationalism. Media, educational institutions, and NGOs should work to inform the public about the potential consequences of ultranationalist and extremist ideologies. Increased awareness can help prevent escalation and promote tolerance. This underscores the urgent need for mainstream media to cover the deeper motives behind the ongoing conflict at Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Temple Mount. By recognizing the ideological forces at work, we can address the real risks, foster public accountability, and work toward a future of mutual respect and stability.
All right, folks, there you have it. End time threat. So you watch out for what's going on. It's all a lot of distraction. So we're going to play this last tune, Epstein Files, because that's what we want, and then we'll be signing off.
Epstein Files. Epstein Files. Gives a lot of people smiles. The grins go on for miles, cause Trump might finally be caught.
But I wouldn't smile so quick at his emasculation. There were kids who bore the scars and lived with the damnation. Don't smile so quick when Trump gets shamed. The point was never a political game. There were kids abused and cast aside, while the rich close ranks and to you they lie. Don't smile so quick when Trump gets shamed. The point was never a political game. There were kids abused and cast aside, while the rich close ranks and to you they lie. Epstein and Trump They were old pals, a private island and no good morals. He liked them pretty, he liked them young. Epstein went to prison and then he got hung. So don't grin at Trump's disgrace when children lost far more. He walked free while they broke down, bleeding, brutalized and torn. Don't smile so quick when Trump gets shamed. The point was never a political game. There were kids abused, then cast aside, while the rich close ranks and to you they lie. Don't smile so quick when Trump gets shamed. The point was never a political game. There were kids abused, then cast aside, while the rich close ranks and to you they lie. People wanna see those Epstein files. The longer it takes, the more they get riled. If Pizzagate made the right wing roar, Epstein's truth should burn them to the core. There is chaos in the Trump admin over covered up lies and loathsome sin. The Trump gang is in it up to their neck. Soon they'll crash like a big train wreck.